Hey, how's it going? This is Rob from Justin's Toys, and today I'm going to teach you yet another bracelet. This was actually designed by Allie Offman, who's a 9-year-old girl. I'm actually subscribed to her channel. She's only one of 2 people I'm subscribed to, and she's definitely talented beyond her years. So, if you want, check her channel out. Also, you can click right here to view a video of how to make this design right here, which is what this design is based off of. Now, this is Allie's creation. What I did is I shrunk it down so it's more intricate, and as you can see, I have it next to a quarter so you can get a reference to what the size of this bracelet is. Also right here is a classic single band with a charm, and as you can see, it's even thinner than that, and that's what I like about it. So I'm going to show you how to make it, and the first thing you're going to need is a loom. Alright, so the first thing you want to do is you want to set up your loom just like this. So if you want, pause the video for a second, make sure the setup is just like that, and once you're done setting up, you can continue. This bracelet requires a lot of math, believe it or not, because I'm teaching you how to do it on one loom. You're going to have to figure out where you're starting in your sequence when you're applying the rubber bands back onto the loom for the second time. So organization is key. What I'm going to do is I'm going to order my sequence. I'm picking my colors, and I'm not using these rubber bands. I'm just having them down so I can refer to the order in which I'm putting these rubber bands on later. So if you want, you can put your colors out and you can number them. Alright, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I mean, you can pick as many or as little colors as you want, but I try to stick with even numbers of colors. It will make it easier later on. Alright, so starting from your first color, you're going to grab one rubber band, and again, just like every single bracelet that you make, you want to start with your arrow pointing away from you as you apply the rubber bands. So I'm starting with the gray, and I am going to take this rubber band and I am going to double loop it. So the easiest way to do that is take both index fingers, have them through the band, turn it into an 8, and then bring it back onto the same finger. As you can see, now it's double looped, and I am going to put it on the loom from the 1st to 4th peg. So from there to there. Okay? Then I'm going to refer back to my sequence. Next color is neon orange, and again I'm taking my index finger, turning it, bring it back to itself, and I am going to actually stretch this one out like this, because this bracelet actually does get really tense when you're looping, and you want to stretch it out because that's going to minimize your chances of having rubber band snap. So it's very important. First one doesn't really matter that much, but starting from the second and third, you want to make a habit of doing this on all the bracelets you're applying onto the loom. So the second one is going on the 2nd to 5th peg. Alright. Now you want to grab your third color. Mine's going to be purple. Again, 8, back to itself on the index. Stretch it out. Stretch it out as much as you can. Okay, it's very important that you get this. This third rubber band, I'm putting on from the 3rd to 6th peg. Okay, and I'm basically going to do this all the way down the line, following my sequence in order. And I am going to fast forward, and I'll be right back after my loom is completely filled. Alright, so as you can see, I'm completely done filling my loom, and at this point I can actually turn the whole entire loom around, grab my hook, and I am actually going to start looping. Okay, so you want to pick a rubber band at this point that's a color that's completely irrelevant to your whole entire bracelet that you're making. In this case, I'm going to use a black rubber band, and you want to put it on the second peg, and using one hand you're extending it out while you're looping the first rubber band back to itself. So I am going to go in there, hold that black rubber band while I'm grabbing that white rubber band over there, and I'm pulling it around those edges and back up and over the other end of that white. And then I'm going to grab the black rubber band from that second peg while my hand is still holding on to the other end, and I'm bringing this back to the first peg, and then I'm also bringing this, the other end of that black rubber band that was being held with my left hand, back to that first peg. So if you did everything right, it should look like that, almost like a stretched out 8. And then at that point you can start looping. So the second rubber band, this blue one, which is on the second peg, is the next peg that we're going to work on. We're going to bring this back to itself, then third peg back to itself, then fourth peg back to itself, so on and so forth. And these first 3 rubber bands don't really have that much tension, so they're pretty easy. But once you get past the third rubber band, things start to change, and it's very important that you understand how to loop these, because if you don't, rubber bands will snap and will cause it to take much more longer because you're gonna have to fix your errors. So on this fourth peg, I'm going in front of all those rubber bands, and I'm grabbing just the orange, the neon orange from underneath. And I'm going to zoom in so you can see what's going on. Okay. In front of that, all those white rubber bands, maybe bring this down a little bit so it's easier to distinguish. And I'm grabbing that orange. Get around those corners. Don't get caught. If you get caught, things are going to snap, and snapping is no fun. Alright. Now at this point you're going to feel a lot of tension. The trick really is to use this hook like a lever, where you're going to very gently just turn this back and forth until it's long enough to cover that peg. As you can see, it's stretching out long enough so I can just go up and over that peg by itself. Okay? It's very important. Do not force it. Do not pull it hard. Pull it as lightly as you can. Now I'm going to do this side. The next peg, which is the 5th peg in. And I'm just going to separate it so that the gray is definitely on the bottom. As you can see, it was kind of tangled. I'm going in front of all those blues. Again, I'm going to zoom in. I'm going in front of all those blues, and I'm grabbing just the grays from underneath. Again, I'm going around those edges because if it gets caught, it's going to cause a problem. And again, like a lever, I am going back and forth until it's long enough. Don't force it. Very important. You don't want these to snap. Okay, now it's long enough to cover that peg, then go up and over. Okay, now I'm over here on the 6th peg. Again, I'm grabbing this fuchsia from under the purple. Okay, and over here you can see what's going on. I'm going to zoom, focus so you can see it. I'm going in front of that purple, grabbing that fuchsia from underneath, and then getting around those corners so you can see. And again, just like a lever, I'm going back and forth until that rubber band is out long enough to cover that peg. And as you can see, it's long enough, and now I can put it over the peg. Next one. Now there's no rubber bands to really go in front of. You know, I'm on the 7th peg, and now it's just going in that teardrop and grabbing those white bands from the bottom and bringing it up and back to itself. So it gets a little bit easier at this point, but you still have to be very gentle when pulling it up and over. Do not try to pull too hard. If a rubber band ends up snapping, refer to the end of this video. I'll show you an example of how to fix a rubber band that snapped, and it does require some skill and understanding of which rubber bands go over and under. So just fast forward to the end and I'll have a troubleshooting part because I know it's going to happen. Okay, so I'm basically going to do this all the way to the end. Alright, so this is the last one. Alright, so at this point I am done with applying all the loops, so everything is pretty much going to hold itself together except those last 3 rubber bands, which are right here. So now I'm going to remove this from the loom, but very important, this band is actually going to be removed with the hook. You can't just pull it off because you will have rubber bands that snap, and the way you do this is by going in and you are going to use the hook to get around the corner just like that, starting from the outside of the rubber band. So right here, this first peg, the outside, you're hooking that, and you're slightly, very slightly bringing that over and off of that peg. Again, from the outside of the next peg, very gently, you're pulling that up and over. Next peg, the purple, very gently, get around that corner, up and over. Next peg, very gently. If you just try to pull this off, you will have a band that snaps, and unfortunately at this point, if a rubber band snaps, you are going to have to start all over from the beginning, because there's nothing you can do about fixing a snap band at this point, which is why I stress very gently around that corner and you pull it off. Come on this way, up and over from the outside, up and over, You kind of got to get a feel for it. If it seems too tense, you might want to wiggle it a little bit, because not all rubber bands are created equal. Some of them are more tense than others. Okay, so this is the fourth peg in. This is actually going to be the last one that I remove. So again, make sure you're doing it very lightly, and at this point I am going to actually hook all three of these onto this hook and leave it on this hook so that it's ready to be transferred back onto this loom after I refill it. Alright, so I'm going in with the hook. I'm actually going to grab those three. I'm starting with the gray. As you can see, I have it all hooked and I'm pulling it off. Then I'm going to push it in a little bit just to make sure all four ends are caught. Then I'm going into that second peg. Okay, I'm going to turn my hook around like so and then go in that peg. That way I know for sure I got those bands hooked. Again, as you can see, I have those. And then the last one, you kind of have to hold this down a little bit because sometimes it might unloosen. Now I'm going into this third peg. Make sure I'm in there and grab those last purples. And as you can see, all three ends have been caught onto this hook. And I'm actually just going to leave this aside, and I'm going to refill my loom. But at this point, this is where you have to calculate or figure out where you're starting and what color you're starting with. And at this point, this is another important step. You're actually going to take one of these rows and you're going to bring it down so it's now like that. Okay, and now we're gonna figure out exactly what color we're starting with over here. Okay, again, to refill this loom, you are going to have the arrow pointing away from you. So I turn my loom around. Once you have your loom readjusted, you want to count backwards to 23. So I'm actually going to write here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Okay? So as you can see, 23 is a neon orange. That is going to be the first rubber band that I'm putting on peg 1 to peg 4. So you grab the neon, again you are stretching it out, and now from the first to fourth peg, again make sure that you have adjusted your loom, because if you didn't, it's not going to go on the same way. Again, now you're going this way, you're going forward, so the numbers are going up, you're not going backwards anymore. So 2, then my next color is the purple. Again, take the rubber band, turn it into 8, stretch it out, second to fifth peg, you put it on top. Then the next color is blue. Again, we're doing this all the way down the line. I'm going to fast forward and I'll be right back after this whole entire loom is complete. Alright, there you go, last one. Okay, now at this point I am going to transfer it back on. So, first thing you want to do is turn your loom around so that you're set for looping again. And then, starting with that bottom band that's on that hook. You'll see it's that purple. That purple is going to go over that first peg. So you're reapplying this purple rubber band. There's 4 ends to this rubber band. And you're getting all these purples back on top of this fuchsia. Okay, so it's kind of tricky, but you could use your hand to kind of help you in this case. Okay, so I got all those purples, as you can see, and then to get my peg unloosened. Now the second peg, you are going to take the second set of colors, which in this case is the neon orange. Kind of separate it using your fingers, and you are again putting it on that second peg. This gets really tricky. Okay, so I got all those oranges on. Okay, now the last thing is these grays I am putting on top of this last peg, and this one's pretty easy because it's on the hook. And there you go. I'll pull it back and make sure. And now at this point, I am going to resume looping. I'm going in front of all of these purples, grabbing the fuchsia from the bottom, and I'm bringing the fuchsia back to itself. So again, it's 1 to 4, but in front of that purple. So again, I'm going to zoom in so you could see. Focus in front of the purple and bring this down so I can grab it easier around those edges. Okay, back to that whole entire wrench motion. Okay, now it's out far enough to cover that end. Go over. Now we're on this side, and as you can see, you gotta go in front of all those neon oranges and grab that white from underneath. Bring it around those corners. Again, like a wrench. Pull back and forth until it's out long enough to cover that end. And then, again, in front of the grays, grabbing the blue. Again, around those corners. Again, like a wrench. You're pulling it straight. Don't try to pull it like that because you'll break your hook. Alright, it's out long enough to cover that end. Go over. And then you're basically doing this all the way down the line. So, on the fourth peg, grabbing just the purple, around, and over, grabbing just the neon orange, Okay, last one. Alright, there you go. I am done filling up my loom. Again, just like before, starting from the outside on that first band, you are pulling it out and doing it very gently. Okay. Trying to make sure you have all the rubber bands grabbed, because if you grab 3 ends and there's one end, it's definitely highly likely to snap. Alright, again, just like before, on the fourth to last peg, that is the last one you are actually going to pull off, and then you are going to take your hook, again starting from the first peg, you're going in there, you're hooking all of those bands, you're bringing up, slide it to the top, and go in that second peg. Alright, go around, hook all of those up, slide up a little bit, and then going in that third hole, grabbing those. And again, important step, just like before, now you are readjusting your loom. You're grabbing one side, all the clear ones, and then you're moving it up. Okay? And once you do that, you have to refill it, going back to your little reference of your sequence. You are actually going to again count backwards, starting from where you left off, which is over here, 23. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, and 23. And you are starting with the purple. So, again, turn your loom around so the arrow is facing away from you. Make sure that you are grabbing your rubber band and you are double looping it and then stretching it out. First to fourth peg. Next color. I'll be back after this whole loom is filled, and I'll see you then. Alright, so as you can see, my loom is complete, and just like before, I am going to transfer this bracelet back onto the loom. So starting with that navy blue rubber band, I'm putting that on the first peg. I'm going to use my hand to kind of help. Holding down on this. There you go. First one's on. Next one, I am going to put these 4 purples back onto the second peg. And then the last ones are the 4 oranges. And those are going on that third peg. Alright, so there you go. I'm transferred back onto the loom. And again, just like before, going in front of all of those navy blues, grabbing that gray, bringing it back up around those edges and on to that fourth peg. Okay, again in front of the purples, grabbing those fuchsias from underneath, pulling it around those corners. Again, like a lever, over, out. Okay. Here, we're going in front of those neon oranges, grabbing those whites, and separate it so it's easier around those edges, like the lever, and then around that peg, and then the blue around those edges, like a lever. And I will be back once I'm at the end. last one. Okay, at this point I am done again, and just like before, I'm gonna pull it off from the sides one by one. Alright, very carefully. This part you have to be more careful because you can't fix errors. Alright. And I will be back when I'm at the fourth to last peg. Alright, so I'm pulling off that fourth to last peg, and that's going to be the last one that I pull off. And at this point I am going to clip. So the best way to do this is to grab all of these rubber bands, bring it back to here, and then bring these rubber bands back to here. So you're bringing 1 to 3 and then 2 to 3. So I'm gonna grab the purple, okay, very easily take them, put them around that peg, and then grab all of the blues just like that, and again put them on top of this peg. Okay, so now that I got all of the rubber bands on that last peg, I'm actually going to clip it with one rubber band. Again, I'm taking the rubber band, I'm going to double loop it. It's just going to make it look better. And I'm going to grab a C-clip and I'm going to clip both of these this double loop band. Okay, then I'm going to take the hook and I'm going to put it in this hole, okay, and then around the side, and then while I'm holding on to this double loop rubber band with the clip, I am going to pull it up and make sure that I got both of these other ends of the rubber band hooked. So as you can see, I'm taking this and I'm just easily getting both of these rubber bands to go in. Okay, and as you can see, it's caught. I'm still holding on to this C-clip. Alright, and I'm pulling it back out through the hole, as you can see. And then I'm actually going to C-clip these other two ends. So I'll focus a little bit more so you can see. And while I'm holding it, I am going to C-clip it just like that. Alright, make sure you have both ends and not just one, because if you have just one, it's not going to hold together as nicely. So as you can see, I have all four ends of that rubber band on that one hook, and at this point you can actually take your hook and pull out all of those rubber bands off, and it's going to be held together by that neon orange rubber band, as you can see. Okay, so now the bracelet actually needs to be stretched out, and that's going to smoothen out the whole entire design. So using my hands, I'm going to pull, 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 and pull. And then over here, remember we started off with the black that was completely irrelevant, where I'm going to pull the black, tug on it a little bit hard, and you'll see this white pulled out, and those four ends of that white rubber band is actually what's going to be clipped. So on the other end of the C-clip, I'm actually going to grab all four ends of that white. Sure, you could see I have one, and I have two, and I could actually use my hook to get the other two, three, and four. So you can see I have all four ends now. Now I could just pull this black off, and there you go. There is the completed double braided friendship bracelet. And then let's say, oh no, a rubber band snapped. Oh no, what am I gonna do? I spent all that time. So, as you can see, after the rubber band snapped, I pulled it out. This was a red one. What you're going to do is, again, you're gonna take another red one. Where it was, you are going to double loop it, and you're going to take the hook, and where that end, that red rubber band was, you're going to go in between the two that are inside where the ends of this red were supposed to be. So the red rubber band was supposed to be like that, and you can see that there's two rubber bands right here. You have to take the hook and you have to go in between those two rubber bands. Leave it like that. Get one end of the rubber band to go on top of that peg, and then hook those other two rubber bands and pull it out from in between both of those. And once you get all the way down here, you're grabbing your hand and you're holding onto that like that, right, with your finger, as you can see, and then you're going into that, all those rubber bands that are on that peg that it was supposed to be on, and you're taking your hook and you're again pushing down, and then you're catching it with those two reds, and then you're pulling it back out through the hole. Okay, and again you're back at where you were supposed to be, and this time you're listening and you're levering it out until it's long enough to cover that peg. Okay, and there you go. I just fixed my error, and now I can continue. Alright.